Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to Business Innovators Radio. This is your host, Constant Taylor. Today, we have a very special guest on the show, and they're going to share some very exciting information with us. So, if you're looking to increase your personal and professional effectiveness, then you've come to the right place. Our special guest today is Michael Karpovich. Michael has been speaking professionally for over 30 years, and the primary content that he speaks on is resilience. He has spoken both nationally and internationally and is based out of Cairo, Michigan. Michael, welcome to the show.
Hey, wow. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm excited.
And we're excited to have you, man, sincerely. I'd like to kick off the show by asking you if you could tell the listeners a little bit about your business and how you help your clients and audience become more successful and effective.
Well, I have been speaking for 37 years actually now, and I've been doing programs in large part with educators. I speak to teachers, administrators, I speak to the parents, and I also speak a lot to children. The message of resiliency has come out a lot. We used to talk to kids about not doing drugs, about not being violent, some of these really hot topics. But I found out that when I was talking to them about resiliency, and when I was talking to them about substance abuse or talking to them about violence, I found out that what was happening is I was always telling them how they could be resilient. Because the reason kids use drugs, and the reason kids choose violence is because something bad has happened in their lives and they're making poor decisions. Mm-hmm. Now, I certainly do a lot more than just education. I do a lot in the corporate arena. I do a lot with associations, and that same message continues through. Regardless of the audience, I'm always talking about resilience, how you can take the nasty things in life when you get kicked in the teeth and turn it around. And I take my personal stories and I share that with them, and it really seems to make an impact that lasts.
Okay, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the word being able to turn it around, because I know, with resiliency, a lot of people that some people that I know are doing the same things over and over, and they're doing the same things over and over incorrectly. So it's kind of like going down the wrong
doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
Yeah,
I know. Insanity, I understand.
Yep, absolutely. So those are some of the problems that you help your clients with. What are some of the popular misconceptions about the work that you do, and how do you dispel those?
Well, the first thing that happens is there's this animal out there called a grown-up, and those people who finish growing. I don't respond well to them at all. Those grown-ups, those people that are finished growing, these people who have lost the child inside, they for some reason think that kids can't understand or grasp heavy issues, and because of that, they are hesitant to let something like this happen. Now, even in the corporate arena, a lot of times people don't understand that what I'm offering is a program that is actually going to impact all the areas of their lives. And when they initially look to me to do some programming, they're not really aware of how powerful presentations like this can be. And who's to say? I mean, you get in front of people and you talk for a half hour, 90 minutes. Can that impact an entire life? That's pretty arrogant of me to suggest that I can talk to you for a half hour and change your life. However, I have evidence that's precisely what happens when I do my programs. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean to be arrogant. I don't mean to be stuck up. But golly, one of the things, I got this Facebook message from a young woman. She sent me this Facebook message out of the blue. I had no idea who she was. And she started out her message, "Thank you for saving my life." I would save her life. Holy smokes. And I read on, and she said that when she was 17, 5 years ago, when she was 17, she was suicidal. She was planning on killing herself. And somehow the day she was planning on killing herself, she had it all worked out, planned out. Everything was all set for her to end her life that day. And somehow that was the day I was speaking at her school in Florida. I do not know what I said, but according to this young woman, the presentation I gave, and she actually quoted some of the presentation right back at me, the presentation I gave made her decide that she was supposed to live. And this is 5 years later. Now that right there is kind of suggesting to you this is something that will last. And I thanked her so much. I said, wow, this is such an amazing comment, such an amazing note. Thank you very much for your support. And I asked her if I could use her Facebook message in my marketing efforts, because I want other people to realize that that's the sort of impact that happened. And she was certainly gracious, and she said, oh, please, yes, use it. And we took her message, and we actually made it into a little video. And if you go onto YouTube and you type in my name, Karpovich with a K, Karpovich, and then type the word legacy, that video will come up. And, I mean, it'll tug on your heartstrings.
Wow.
This woman decided to not kill herself. And it just was amazing. So that's just evidence of a message that lasts, in my mind, 5 years is forever. So that just really, I mean, it excited me.
Well, you know, what you're doing is very significant, and it's a huge contribution to the world. I mean, and on a smaller scale, what we do, I mean, you never know how you're impacting someone's life. I mean, if you're behind someone in the post office and the person is maybe not moving as fast as you want, and you feel like saying something nasty, you don't know if this may be this person's last day, or if he's planning on doing something, you know, crazy when he gets home. So always imparting a kind word, you know, uplifting someone. I had a similar story. I won't go into it, but a guy at a car wash. You know, I saw him at the airport in a suit and tie, didn't recognize him, and he said, "You don't recognize me, do you? I'm now the manager at this, you know, at the airport here, and I have to thank you for it, because when I was washing cars, you know, you'd always, you know, send me uplifting messages." So this wasn't somebody who was about to, you know, jump off a cliff, but it was, you know, it was a life-changing event. So it's, man.
You never know. I made a goal early in life to always have enough bravery to say something good. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of people out there that will think you're a flake, or think you're a flirt, or will not understand that if you are the sort of person that always says something good. But my goal is to make someone smile. I once took my girlfriend, who eventually became my bride, I took her to a National Association of Professional Speakers. And I wanted to introduce her to all these famous people that I knew, authors and professional speakers that are just world-renowned. And they're colleagues of mine, they're friends of mine. And I introduced her to these very renowned people who knew me, and they jokingly would look at my wife and say, "Oh my gosh, you're dating Carp?" That's my nickname, Carp. and then they'd look at me and say, "You got a woman like that?" And after 50 of them said this exact same stupid joke, my wife looked at me, or my girlfriend at the time looked at me and said, "What do they know that I don't?" Because all she heard is them all saying, "My goodness, this is a mistake." And I had to convince her it wasn't. And then I introduced her to a friend of mine, less well known. Her name is Nikki McQuiston. She's a disc jockey out in Dallas, Texas, I believe. And I introduced her to her, and Nikki looked at my bride and said, "Oh, Pamela, you are so lucky to be with a guy like Michael." And my heart just exploded. I said, "Oh man, it was so good." And that lesson was, you know, all my friends they're dear friends of mine. We're all doing that same joke that we all do, where we say, "You suck," which means I love you.
Right.
But, you know, eventually it stops being so funny. And Nikki just decided to go the other direction and just out of the blue, unrequested, give this amazing praise. And at that moment, I made a personal vow, and I've not been perfect at it, but my personal vow was anytime anyone introduces me to any significant other, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, I will always turn to that person and say, "You are so lucky to be with so-and-so." And I get amazing results from that. And I think it goes back to your guy at the car wash. You know, if you have enough guts to just say something nice, and it doesn't have to be, "I love you, I want to marry you." just say something nice, you can have an amazing impact on them. And that'll last forever. That'll reverberate throughout your company, throughout your business, throughout your work, if you can just have the wisdom to always say something nice.
Absolutely.
And it's not easy. It's not easy. It's certainly in this culture, but any culture, it's just not easy to do. But if you make the decision and you push that way, I recommend it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really, I've just felt this really selfish energy for over the last 10 years where everything is about, us. On a global scale. So really, if you take the attention or the ego off of you and put it on humanity and the other person, then it actually becomes a lot easier. Like, you know what, this is not about me. This is about me uplifting someone, and this person may not appreciate it.
It's hard to do, though. In this culture, in this competitive culture, we've been taught that we have to, in lack of praise from everyone else, we have to build ourselves up so other people realize our value. And so we've spent a lot of energy, quote unquote, building ourselves up, just because we think that's the appropriate and right thing to do.
Right.
And we build ourselves up because we're taking care of our business, because we're promoting ourselves. We're always pointing out, hey, yes, I was able to accomplish this. Brag, brag, brag. And in doing that, we're not so much taking the time to build other people up. And so that's, I'm just saying it's really, really hard to make that break and make that decision to be different, because you will be looked at as a flake. You will be looked at as a flirt. You will be misunderstood by some people as you are always the first to compliment. But I guarantee that eventually, if they realize you're always the one to compliment, they're going to look at you a little bit differently. They're going to realize that there's something awesome about you because of that. I do have a lot of my dear friends, the same ones that looked at my girlfriend at the time and said, oh, I can't believe you're dating him. When they introduce me to their significant other, they automatically jump in before I say anything. They jump in and say, don't believe anything he says. And then, of course, I get the compliment. They say, well, maybe you can believe that.
So, diving back into the subject of resiliency, which branches out into many topics, could you continue to talk about the aspects of that and how to leverage that to make a person more effective and more successful in life?
My degree is in child psychology, and I believe very much that it's all about the way you think. You need to, and many times we need to find a way of changing the way you think just so you can do great things. I don't mean to be vulgar and inappropriate. However, I need to share with you that as a child, when I was very young, I was tiny. In fact, in 9th grade, I was 4 feet tall. Kindergartners towered over me. And I was such a geeky little nerdy punk. And I didn't fit in, and I was excessively awkward and socially awkward. And school was always very, very hard for me, and I didn't really have any friends. And I had a problem with an animal out there called the bully. And the bullies, there were 4 of them in particular, used to torture me. They would trip me in the hall, they would push me, and they would shove my head down toilets. Oh, my goodness. I got 9 toilets in 9th grade. 9 and 9. 9 toilets in 9 toilets in 9th grade. And it was embarrassing. I was devastated. It was disgusting. It was vulgar. The toilets were almost never clean when my head went into it. And it was just swirlies is what they call it. And it was just, it was horrible.
Wow.
And these guys were mean. These guys are horrible. I remember one of them named Charlie. He used to brag about when his cat had kittens, he'd spend his energy riding over the kittens with a lawnmower. I mean, he was just a very vulgar guy. And another guy, Dave, after he got his driver's license, would literally drive up on the sidewalk trying to scare people. Wow. I mean, these guys are just really, really
bad people.
And I'm embarrassed to confess to all of you guys, but I hated them. I just hated them. Mm-hmm. But I realized as I matured that the horrible stuff they did to me changed me in not necessarily a negative way. It wasn't that that I was undone by them, but I was actually kind of made by that. The swirlies, the violence, the horrible abuse that I got actually made me who I am. And here's something I'd like to share with you, dear listener. I know something about you you didn't want me to know. You're going to be really upset that I know the truth. But I know you haven't flushed down toilets. Yes, you. It may not have been porcelain. It might have been the toilet when you got divorced. It might have been the toilet when you lost the big job or the big contract. It might have been the toilet when someone you really trusted betrayed your trust. There's all sorts of toilets. It might have been the toilet when your dog died. Some toilets are big, some toilets are small, some toilets are wet, some toilets are dry, and some toilets, like mine, were porcelain. But what you need to hear, it's the toilets in our lives, without exception, that makes us stronger. We don't become strong when life is easy. We become strong when life sucks. We don't become stronger when life works out. We become stronger when everything falls apart. And if we can grasp that, see, there is another toilet in your horizon. I'm sorry, I should have told you that, but it's true. There's something else that's going to happen that's going to be horrible, and really horrible. And I have not earned the right to tell you, but I believe with all of my heart that that toilet will be something that, with the right mindset, will make you stronger. That is the core of my resiliency message. Regardless if I'm speaking to CEOs, if I'm speaking to line workers, if I'm speaking to corporations or associations or schools or children, that is the core of my message. Embrace your toilet.
I am so happy and thrilled to hear your message, not necessarily from the toilet standpoint, but from the bully from the bully stand. I mean, it's a very, very vivid message that you give, and it hits right at home. I remember being bullied as a child, and I know today everybody is trying to eradicate bullying, and I think as you're talking, those bullies actually strengthened me. They made me able to deal with the bullies today, the corporate bullies, the governmental bullies. So I don't think the answer is trying to protect and coddle from every little thing, but strategically helping our kids be able to deal with the bullies and the kids that are trying to flush our heads down toilets.
Interesting thing, a little side note here. The 4 bullies that I told you beat me up, in 11th grade, one of them was drinking and driving and was in a horrible accident and died. 7 months later, almost to the day, another one was in another drinking driving accident and died. The third one actually did not die from drinking and driving. He was arrested for drinking and driving, and he escaped from the police, drove into the forest right behind my farm, and shot himself in the head and killed himself.
Wow.
And the 4th bully also drinking and driving and died. And you see, what's astounding to me is if I'm speaking in a school to children, I'm a nerd. I am a geeky, dorky nerd. I have pictures to prove it. I am so geeky. I'm so nerdy. I have a picture of me when my father gave me a haircut. My bangs were crooked, and oh my gosh, it's horrible. And I was so geeked. The thing is when I do a presentation at a school to children, I expect all the nerds to run up to me and say, "Carp, my hero," because I am representing them as a success story. But you know what happens? The bullies come up to me. Almost unconditionally. The kids with tattoos and piercings and obviously violent kids, they come up to me and they say, "Carp, you rock. You changed my life. Because of what you said, I'm no longer going to be what I've always been."
Wow.
And it's unconditional.
Wow.
It's unconditional. I mean, I still am an advocate for nerds, but it's unconditional that the violent kids. I was just today working in a school. There's actually a prison. These children are violent criminals, and they have been put in a building where they have cells, and it's a prison basically for children. And I was there with these kids today, and delightful children, made horrible choices in their lives over and over and over again. But it's astounding to me. They really, really, they get excited by my message. And, even in the corporate world, the bullies, the corporate bullies.
Mm-hmm.
They are often the ones that come up to me and say that my message most profoundly impacted them. Now, I don't know if they're thinking back to when they were bullied, which is certainly possible, but it seems more like they're hearing their story when I tell them about Ron, Rod, Charlie, and Dave, the 4 bullies that beat me up, and they know that, hey, but therefore the grace of God go I.
Mm-hmm.
But that surprises me consistently. 37 years of doing this, every state in the United States at least twice, and it's been so just an absolute joy to have the privilege of making this type of impact in people's lives. And and I often, I was speaking to a group of psychologists and social workers the other day, and it's astounding to me how they take the message that I share and really allow it to redesign their lives. See, one of the main presentations I do, setting the work with children aside, is I do these presentations on dealing with stress and preventing burnout. And you know very well that if you're in a lot of stress, one of the best things you could do is somehow find a way of becoming resilient.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was my message for them, and it's really exciting to see how people will take my message, and it ends up being not my message as much as their journey. They take the stuff, they give it a meaning that I never gave it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell you how many times people come up to me and they say, "Man, I love your presentation." And I say, "Wow, thank you. I'm so honored." And then they quote back to me my presentation, which is something that I have never and would never say. But that's what they heard.
Wow.
That's what they heard.
Wow. Wow.
It's obnoxiously funny.
So
I sometimes think I should take notes of what they think I said so I could say it next time.
yeah, they're giving you your material. Your yeah.
That's it.
So we're it's always amazing when we have such powerful speakers like yourself with such a powerful message, how fast the time goes. And we are out of time, but I would like to ask you.
Oh no!
I know, right? It's like we could. It's like we're just getting ramped up. But if the listeners would like to find out more about your company, the services that you provide, and possibly utilize your services, what's the best way for them to contact your organization?
Call me directly. Call me. My toll-free number is 1-800-648-3367. It actually spells 64 teens, as in teenager, 64 teens. 1-800-648-3367. Call me on that line, and it should reach me really quickly, and I'll get back to you. I mean, you can certainly find me on the web. A long time ago, my dear friend Al Gore and I invented the internet. He left. I'm still there.
Wow.
So
you are famous.
I have several websites, but I don't think that's the best way of making it happen. I think the best way of making it happen is give me a ring, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds good. Well, Michael, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was sincerely a pleasure having you. I appreciate it, and I know that the listeners do too.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.